Hi guys, back over bookshelf here and the back normal bookshelf. In this video that no one asked about it, I'll explain the general basics of how I render. And I've done it in the past and one very recently, but those two, let's say, one is outdated and barely explain anything, and the other one followed clickbaity and lacked information. Thus, this is kind of remake of the recent one, so I'll try to make it as understanding as I can. Without further ado, let the real deal play. The program I'm using is IBIS Paint and I'll use my signature brush with 9 to 34% opacity. Throughout the video, I'll show on the screen the percentage of opacity, and with the brush, you can use Faux Tip Hard from IBIS basic brushes. Starting off, I must have 2 to 3 layers, one line art, one base color, and sometimes a sketch layer. I put them in the folder, and between line art and base color, I'll make a new layer and set it to multiply mode at around 50 to 60% opacity, and clip it to the layer under. I call this layer base shading as I add depth to the skin and hair. Also add blush and sometimes eye bags and or scars. Using the color of the skin your character has, I slightly darken the lower half of the face with circular motion. The reason I do it is to show the depth and the shape of the face, and for circular motion, I did to make it more natural, and overall it kinda gives a watercolor look to the illustration. Next I add some blush. I changed the skin color's intensity, which became the Scarlet Red shade. I apply this color on the cheeks, and going back with the skin color, I blend it and connect both of them to the nose bridge. This step applies to all skin tones, though in some instances you do need to adjust the hue a bit. I also like to give a bit of lips with the same color as blush, and on darker skin tones, I make an upper lip slightly darker, like it is seen in real life. With hair, I use the base color and shade the top of the head, ends, and around this part. With blonde hair, instead of its base color, I use tan. Since I personally seldom use pure white and pure black, I use off-white for the white hair and shade it with a steel bluish color. For black, I mostly use desaturated indigo as its base color and shade it with add layer on 20 to 30% opacity instead, using high intensity of the color. Then I use white ultramarine to add hair highlights. Pretty much that's all for that layer. Going to the next one, which I call main shading. As in this layer, I'll place shadows. I often use 4 colors for this layer: dark blue, dark magenta, skin and hair color of the character. I use the same settings for this layer as the base shading, though sometimes the opacity can reach up to 80% in some instances. I'm starting off with dark magenta to make the shadows look a bit lively on the skin. In next example art, the white source is soft frontal one, so I'll place shadows under the nose, on the lower lip, on the sides of the chin, on the sides of the eyes, half of the upper eyelid, a bit under the bangs, under the neck and a bit on the ears. Then I get back to skin color and blend out magenta and give some gradation on the skin. After that, I go with dark blue and I place it where the light would hit the least, like under the nose or under the neck. Shading the eyes here are pretty simple, keeping dark blue color and filling half of the whites and layering an additional stroke right under the upper eyeline. And doing the same thing with the irises, but layering in a more crescent shape than linear. For hair, I repeat the same process as I did on the base shading layer, either with dark blue or dark magenta, depending on the overall atmosphere I want to have. And with blonde hair, I blend out the main shading a bit with the same tan color that was used for base shade. For clothes, I do recommend to either use yourself as a reference or find it online and analyze how the folds look. For this character, they have a slightly oversized jacket, and because the clothes are hanging from the shoulders, the folds look almost vertical, with occasional diagonal ones that lay around the neck. With this bit of info, I start laying these shadows with dark blue color and add smaller strokes on places that go a bit deeper. I also add slight shadows on the shoulders to make the quad look less flat. For the character, they have a tank top that fits their body. Because this example art is a bust sized, I only add a bit of shadows on the shoulders and near the armpits, and on the lowest opacity, I draw an upside down triangle around the formation of a chest. That's all for main shading. Next way is main highlights. Doing the same process, just instead of using multiply, I use add mode and set it to 20 to 30% opacity. I use white blue for highlighting, as it is the complementary color of the skin tone, which is this peachy shade. Sometimes I use the hue near the main one, it mostly depends on what vibe I want to give it. I'm starting off with highlighting the face on the cheeks and the nose bridge, as this is the area where the light hits more intense, and I highlight the nose bridge a bit more to focus on the face a bit. I highlight just a bit around the teardrop to make the eyes pop a bit. With the eyes, I draw half a circle and do the smaller one to make them brighter on the irises. And for whites, I draw a line on the bottom. With hair, I cover the area of the bangs, while going a bit on top of the shaded area. Then I add very winged lines as the main hair highlights, to make the hair pop. I also add on those areas of the hair. I will say that them being here is a stylistic choice. For quad highlights, I put a tiny bit either in between the shadows or where the light source will fall. Check your reference photo and look for lighter parts of the clothing for a better understanding, and don't add too much highlights unless you want to make a wrinkly shirt made of foil or something. Next layer is the color layer. I set it to 15 to 60% opacity and add strokes of different color. This layer works as correcting some areas that I deem off, and in general make my image less monochrome and a bit lighter, like making the lower half of the face a bit bluish and fixing the color of the shading on one hair with magenta and tan. I'm done with the main rendering. Next section is what I call additional and finishing touches. Let's start with the line art. I put it on multiply mode and changed its color. For this art, I'll go with brown. If you need to, I put the layer on alpha lock and manually change some parts of line art. Above the folder, I make a new layer and with parallel gradation, I add a gradient that I think will suit the character. After choosing the gradient, I set the layer to soft light and change the opacity to the desired percentage. Next and the last one for this section is a layer on 25% opacity. I highlight the entire face to make it as a main focus point and add soul to the eyes, aka catch lights. And that's all for my rendering process. Let me know if this tutorial was useful, and if you have anything to say, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you're having a good day. See you next time in this format. Bye!